This is day one of the first of 3 days, and this is the first morning session. And I just want to say welcome. And if you were part of the original recording, then you saw that we had some technical challenges, and if it could go wrong, it did. And I just want to let you know that we've got everything resolved, and that we're going to have a much simpler presentation, but I believe you're going to like it because we actually found some ways that we can bring in some videos and do a little interaction so you're not forced to sit right in front of the computer. And the main thing that I'm really wanting to create for you is an experience that you can step into the seminar and really just shut out your outside world for a little while. I know that you're watching this from home and it's hard to carve out time. There are a lot of demands, but we're recording this into some smaller chunks so that you could take some time, go into a lesson, make sure that you get to have a little teaching, have an experience, and be able to do a little transformational personal work, and that this is something that's going to be supporting you as you go along. And by the way, my name is Catherine Perry, and welcome to Commanding Wealth. And before we go into the seminar, I know that you had your reasons for wanting to participate. I've got my reasons for wanting to share this with you, and I want to talk to you about that. But before we do, I want to just ask you a few questions here. And if you have a notebook, I definitely recommend keeping a notebook handy. And this is your journal. And then if there's a quote or a question, you might write down the time that you had the question. We're going to be answering questions usually before and after the seminar, and then we're going to be throwing open the floor to Q&A. But I want to just invite you to be thinking about this, because we're going to come back to these questions at the end of the seminar. And the first question is, why do you want to take this course? And what beliefs about money and your behavior with money do you want to change? What changes have you wanted to make, but up until now you haven't been able to? And why do you think you haven't been able to clear that belief or program until now? And once you make the changes you seek, what will you be able to have, be, or do that you can't have, be, or do right now in your current situation? And finally, what greater good could your being financially free serve? Okay, so I want to just invite you to take a few minutes to think about those. And I want to walk you around this session a little bit, because this kind of has some really neat features. We have, of course, the PowerPoint presentation. You see me talking on the audio. We have some YouTube videos that we think is going to make kind of enjoy your time a little better, let you know about coming in and out, and it'll help to time the breaks. And then we even have a whiteboard that I can be making some notes on for you. And so this way we're not going to be having to switch gears, change the equipment around, do those type of demonstrations, and I'm actually going to film things separately if I feel like I need to go into a deeper explanation with you than what time will allow, or if I feel like I need to do some type of demonstration. Okay? So when we're on the live chat, we actually have a way of pulling it up, asking questions, which we've figured out the mysteries of that now, and to where we can get your feedback. And then you would even have a way of, if you don't feel like us seeing your scrubbies or in your comfy clothes and you just want to have some privacy, you can actually put an avatar up so that people can't see you. And it would just show the face, or let me use an avatar and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. And there's the avatar. So you have some ways that you can definitely keep your privacy. All right. Heck, I'm starting to have a bad hair day. Maybe I'll switch over to that, or if I decide I need to have a little sip of water or something. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into this. Now, I just want to, because there's a big promise with this Commanding Wealth seminar. I mean, this is pretty bold because we said it's going to change your life and your fortune forever. That as you discover that there is an actual brain state of the rich, and and I want to stop right there. I mean, the reason I'm stuttering is because the rich people's brains are really different. They have a different wiring. um, we have a wonderful friend, Juan Acosta, who was really interested in how brains worked and people who had extraordinary states and people who were able to, millionaires and athletes. He really wanted to see how their brains worked. And so he was doing studies at University of Washington several years ago, and he actually met Asara and brought her into the lab and hooked her up because he wanted to know how people with extraordinary abilities, who are, very intuitive, visionary, people who work with Reiki, that type of thing, he wanted to see what happens to their brain. He was noticing that there was a lot of theta gamma waves, and we're going to talk about that. And then he said that with millionaires have a different mind. Now they have a different mindset, but they actually have a different way that their brain works. They actually have a very strong ability to go into like a high theta, alpha theta state, to where they're going up into, here we go high, but your brainwave's actually lowering. And so they're able to operate there, but then they have a very strong left brain, and the beta and the theta seem to be in a different conversation. And so he tracked actually two waves happening at the same time so that they could get the big vision, they could tap into their intuition, but then they were able to take action. And when he started sharing with Asara some of his studies, this really put her on a lifetime journey to really say, how do we change our brains? More than changing our habits, can we really change our brains? Can we change our mind, which is different than our brain? Because our brain is a processor, but our mind is really how all the parts of us are communicating. And then we have different aspects of our mind. Like we have the parts that are hidden, we have the parts that are our ego that we want to express out into the world. And then we have all the cells of our body that have its own intelligence. And how do we get all those parts working together for one good? And she really wanted to know what it is that is stopping people from doing, from really achieving what they want. It's more than circumstances or having to overcome difficulties in life, because everyone has things to overcome. There's some people that they just never recover after a big loss, and then there's some people that they can deal with a lot of loss. And what is the difference? What is that resiliency that some have? How can two children that are raised up, that maybe one has a very traumatic childhood, takes that experience and transforms their life into a life of success, happiness, and fulfillment, and the other child gets sucked into the trauma and the drama and that lifestyle and perpetuates the loss? What is that? Well, a big part of that is a decision. There's this key decision point that happens in our lives at different points. But those decisions are really neither right nor wrong. They're the best decision that we think are available to us. No one really intentionally means to make a bad decision. Did you ever sit up and go, of all my choices today, what's the worst thing that I can do? Well, you're always trying to make your best decision. But here's the thing, you're basing your decisions on decisions you made in the past and your parameters. And it has to connect back to the emotions. And so it's so much more than what's happening in your mind, and it's so much more than your emotions and your feeling state. And we're going to talk about some of those things and how can you come to a new decision point? How can you really change your life? So you're going to discover about this rich brain state. You're going to discover about this state of contentment and success that you can actually turn on and activate during the course. And as you enter that state of mind, you're going to change your thinking, your DNA, your emotions, and the ability to create the life of your dream in moments. Now that sounds pretty heady. Now, and I'm going to just go ahead and say here that, I've been working with the One Command several years. I've had a lot of amazing experiences. I've worked with a lot of students who have had incredible transformation and change, but nobody has had a perfect life yet. Nobody. Life goes on. There's losses and disappointments and things that happen that are a little outside of our realm or control sometimes. But that inner state of peace, satisfaction, joy, confidence, a sense of competency, capability, that stays with them no matter what they face. Every one of them. And when life knocks them down, they have a greater ability to get back up, and they have more resources and tools available. And the setbacks are much shorter and much less devastating. Okay, so Asara has talked about this, I have too. And so we just want you to know that this is not a magic pill. You are the magic pill. You are the mystery and the magic and the greatness. And this course is about introducing you to that greatness that you already are, that master being that you were born to be. You came into the world with everything that you need, and your environment has actually turned on and off and shaped some of your um, thoughts and habits and behaviors. There's been some training there, but you can retrain yourself into the ways of success. Now, there are some ways that you are just hooked up and it's not going to change, and it has been up until now, it's been stopping you. But we actually work with people, and this thing that they think is a big block turns out it's one of their greatest assets. And we actually show people the power of that lack, what they perceive to be a lack or a limitation or a block. We turn that stumbling block into a building block. And the biggest thing that I have to say is going to happen, you're going to learn how to really release those fears about what you don't think is possible in exchange for enjoyable, prosperous living naturally and easily. I'm on the phone all the time with people, and I started my business with no money, no list, a vague idea that I wanted to help people. And I actually lived in a really bad part of town, working a full-time job, but I just got the idea that I could offer some demonstration sessions when I learned a new healing technique. And then I just started trying things. And it just didn't occur to me not to try things. It never occurred to me to stop. And I've been on the phone with people so many times when they go, well, I really want to start a business. I really want to help people. I really want to get into coaching or counseling, be a practitioner. I want to start a business, but I don't have money. I don't know anything about marketing. And the thing is, it's not really about what you don't know. We really want to get you over to that part of you that has the dream, the desire, and as you connect into that dream and that desire, all of the information for how to market and how to connect and be in the right place at the right time and the right structure, all of that information is actually contained inside of the dream. Then, as you start moving forward, helpers, both seen and unseen, start coming available to you. And we're going to talk about this because right now is maybe you're looking around in your life. There's a way that you're seeing and experiencing things, and you don't even realize that you have fears because you've lived with them so long. Fear is not necessarily like, you're shaking under your covers and you're going, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. But there's a lot of ways it shows up. And we're going to start uncovering some of those, and we're going to start really helping you meet yourself in the moment. And it's not even just this moment. We're going to teach you how to do some meet yourself in the past and actually connect in with that future self so that you're pulled forward to your fulfillment. And in this, you're going to discover, I'm just going to read off the screen here because it's actually a little close for me, but you're going to discover your greater intelligence and the one command that gets you everything you want. And now, I want to say, we're trained to say, I don't always get what I want, but always get what I need. But the truth is that in all of our buying and the choices we make, we don't usually choose what we need. We usually choose what we want. But we have this idea that we're not allowed to have what we want, or that there's something stopping us from having, being, or doing what we want, some force outside of us. And the truth is that is inside of you. So we're going to teach you how to really get the things that you want. You're going to experience changes in your DNA and the cells in your body as you literally rewire the neural net programs of your brain and your emotional thinking. You may actually feel some tingling up in your brain. You may feel some tingling up in this part. That is perfectly normal, because there's an energy center there called a crown chakra. This is your connection to source mind. But I have literally felt my brain kind of do this little number, or things open up, because the minute you learn something new or a new resource becomes available to you, your brain immediately changes and adapts it, and new neural net processors and transmitters and receptors suddenly are formed to make those new connections. And we're going to be collapsing those old negative connections that keep you in that loop of fear, lack, separation, doubt, that holding back behind that invisible wire that you don't even know why you can't move past it. Okay? And then if you're willing to set aside your notions of what you think you know and are open to take an incredible new adventure, then this information is going to provide you with some techniques that will forever change your concepts as well as your financial good. Now I have to confess, I'm an Aquarian, and my mantra is I know. And that is probably my biggest downfall, is because I'll go, well, I know what the problem is. I know that I should be doing this and this and this, and if I talk to someone, they're probably going to tell me that and that and that. So what is the point? Well, the truth is, I can't really know what my program is or my block is. I can only know the effect. And I'm going to be showing you, based on your languaging and how you're talking about your experience, how to start uncover the clues to your programs that are stopping you, and you don't even realize it, all around you in your everyday thinking and the way you talk about things too, and the way you are perceiving things, there are clues to your success that you're literally blind to right now. You are deleting it, you're distorting it, you've generalized pain, and we're going to talk a little bit about what those words mean, but it's really going to have to do with how you're creating your reality. Okay? Now, I just wanted to kind of quickly go over the general outline of the course, and this is a 3-day course, and this is based on the live course. Now, when we're in a live course, we usually get to have some music, we're up moving around, and we have a lot of interaction with the audience members. And I'm going to do my best to have some interaction, but it is a little different atmosphere on the internet and with the webinar, but I still want to make sure that we have a time for connection. I have set up the basic hours for this to be from 9 to 6, but because I have not taught this in this format, we may actually end early. And so there'll be some homework, or there'll be some other videos and materials for you to view that's part of the day, but you can take your time to view those at your leisure. Okay, so today, the very first day, is about the foundation of the one command. What is the science of how your mind creates reality, the structure of the one command, and we're going to learn how to start clearing beliefs and meeting our inner programs with the one command. Tomorrow, we're going to go deeper into actually meeting those money programs, where those came from, how can we not just uncover it, just like I said, the things that are blocking us, but what are the little clues to our key to creating wealth? Now, I want to pause on that for just a second, because there's something that you are doing naturally right now. Not that's just something that's for fun, but there's a way that you naturally are that that brings value and help to others. There's some skills and talents and abilities that you have that are worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to other people. But you are blind to the potential of your wealth right now. And so we're going to talk to you about uncovering not only your negative money programs, but your positive ones. Then we're going to introduce you to the amazing um, science behind the ratio of the golden mean and the Fibonacci numbers, and how the codes of wealth are literally encoded into all of nature. And one of the clues to that is beauty. And the more beauty you get into life, you actually are creating an environment of wealth around you, and money loves that environment. It actually opens your brain up to this greater ability to create more money. So if you're living in a house with clutter and disorder, or if your surroundings aren't pleasing to you, one of the best things you can do to start bringing money into your life is to get your space clear and bring in some beauty. And then we're going to teach you how to transform your past with the one command. On day 3, this is the day we call this where we kind of put you back together, and you're going to be learning about the power of the new beginning and that uncomfortable gap between the thing that you really want to create and its manifestation. And what happens on that bridge between those two experiences, and what do we do during that time lapse? Then you're going to learn about, I think I may have had this twice, pardon me, not the ratio to golden mean's not there, but you're going to learn how to do more manifesting techniques. I really want to try and get some demonstration people here, because we do learn from each other. So if you're interested in doing some demonstrations or being a volunteer, and maybe if I even recorded you for the session, that would be fabulous. So if you're interested in that, you can send a message to me at Catherine@catherineperry.net. And then finally, we're going to be learning about the Disney strategy, which is an incredible technique for kind of amping up that creative ability that you have. Now, for me, to be a creative person is a really easy thing. I really love it. And in fact, I think if I weren't doing this, my perfect job would be to be part of a creative team and just let me dream and spit out those ideas, because there's just no limit to it. My challenge was, and for a lot of people, is really dealing with some of the realities of the things I want to create. How can I get those structured in a way that I feel like they're manageable? How can I really recognize what are the parts for me to deal with directly that maybe I need to go get some support with? Maybe there's some learning. And then how do I deal with the inner critic? And how can I put that critic to work for me so that I can come up with a good working plan? And this is an incredible technique, so that by the time you're done with this, you're going to know how to take an idea, blow it up, get it down to something that's working, and then look for any holes or flaws in it, and then come back into your creative self and get your particular line of genius. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's just take a little stretch. Okay. All right, that's a lot of talking. So I'm going to switch over to the full schedule right now. I mean, to the full PowerPoint, if you don't mind. And I'm wondering, how many people got this message when you were growing up? Get to work. You aren't being paid to believe in the power of your dreams. Now, this is actually a humorous poster. It's something that I love, but when I saw it, there was actually this shock of recognition, because of all the jobs that I ever had that were just soul-sucking and mind-numbing, and it seemed to be a pretty clear message that I got from the world. And it was a pretty clear message that I personally got kind of growing up, even though my parents were good people, hardworking people. Um, to take the time to dream and play what if really was not um, smiled upon. It was not seen as a good thing. Now, what was on my side is that my mother was naturally intuitive, and so was my dad. And so they had this acceptance about an unseen world. They had this acceptance about one's intuition and being able to be in a little different relationship with people than the world that they could see, touch, and feel. And they were very spiritual people, and so they actually had this idea about how we could be in relationship with the greater world. And when I started meeting Asara and the One Command, and really she started talking about the greater intelligence, I knew what she was talking about, because there would be times, and I've never met a person that this hasn't happened to. There'd be times that I was speaking, or there'd be an idea that I'd want, but there seemed to be some little extra oomph. Um, it wasn't quite channeling because it was all me, but it was wiser than me. And I was noticing I was kind of in an observer mood. And this would often happen when I was with 2 or 3 people and we were talking about some ideas, or we would start talking about spiritual things. And this kind of expanded state of being would happen, and suddenly I would know that I knew that I knew, and there was no separation between me and knowing. Now, maybe you've had a glimpse of that. Maybe you were talking to someone else, or maybe you've had that flash of insight. And that's what we're talking about. That part of you that knows something that's even beyond your ordinary training or understanding. That you don't know how you would get an idea that is not anything you ever thought of before. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about, how can you have a thought that you've never had before? And that almost has to come from some part of you kind of outside of you, because our thoughts are actually part of a cycle that's going on. We say that thoughts are questions you ask yourself, and your beliefs are the answers you give yourself. But those thoughts are actually little, like almost like little energy bubbles kind of radiating up out of your body. And if you could just kind of imagine that, let's say that you were a kid and that you had a lot of homework to do. You were, there was just a lot of schoolwork. There was a lot of stuff going on. There were a lot of demands, and you weren't quite starting to pass in school. Maybe, I don't know who I'm talking to about that. This wasn't my experience, um, but there was the criticism. It's like, well, all you got to do, you got to buckle down. You got to buckle down. You got to work harder. You got to focus. And then you start noticing that when you start feeling pressure and feeling overloaded, your first thought is to say, hey, I got to buckle down. I got to buckle down. I got to get it done. Well, was that you telling yourself to buckle down the first time, or was that a parent telling you? Right. So that was probably your parent, and you internalized their voice. So sometimes we've got like these frozen kind of voices and instructions and thoughts and emotions that we're actually kind of carrying around in us. If we feel criticized, if we were punished, if we were shut down in some way, and that's unresolved, this actually causes parts of us to kind of get freeze up because it's too painful to deal with at the time. And as our little kid self, we shut down and lock it down. Then the next day, it's kind of a new day because we're kids, but that piece never got resolved. So this is what we're talking about. There's this frozen part of you, and this starts to unblock it. I think I've kind of moved around on the slides a little bit. But when we're talking to you about that greater intelligence, this is the part of you that's not your dad's voice or your mom's voice. This isn't you saying they don't like me or they're mad at me. This isn't you saying my family doesn't understand me. There's something, and if you've noticed when this comes in, it's inclusive, it's loving, it's supportive, there's no judgment. And that is the amazing part of that. And what would it be like to live your day-to-day life from that state of being inclusive, wise, loving, no judgment? And this is the part of you that's wanting to express. And this part of you, it's almost like if you were a little spark of light and what we might call creator or the greater intelligence was the original spark of light. Light seeks light. This is just a metaphor. But there's a connection between the light that you are and that even greater intelligence that's outside of you. And all of these parts want to be, all of these bits of light that make you up are always communicating. And even those parts that are outside of you. And there are positive messages and negative messages and empowering messages and limiting messages. And based on your emotions, that's going to determine which messages you tune into. Then we're also going to learn about a little bit about how to position ourselves and move ourselves into that observer mode. And all of this has to do with our brain waves. So much of what we're creating is actually beyond our own senses and our own awareness. And there's a famous quote here, Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics. He's the one who came up with the famous the particle experiment. But there are realities apart from our sense of perception. And so there's more than what we can see, feel, hear, and know. Now, in modern times, we could say, we absolutely know that that's true because let's say even the microscopes that exist today are very different from microscopes that existed 50 years ago or maybe even 100 years ago. Very different in how much detail and how much more information that they can get. And the same is true with just telescopes. But 100 years ago, was there an EMG machine that we could go into and it could actually, through using magnetic fields, read and scan our body? Or think of just the different electric meters and the blood pressure meters and all the different ways. There's so much. Think of electricity, which was always there, but we learned how to harvest it and learned how to use it and generate it on purpose. And we have ways of measuring it that didn't used to exist. Radio waves. And there was always something transmitting because crystals were always transmitting sounds and carrying those sounds back and forth. So there are realities apart from our sense of perception. Where we create from is from the unseen and the unknown. That's where we manifest. It's not really in our known world. Now, we will take action. We will create a space. We will set up we'll build a platform, and we will start doing things that will generate a particular outcome. Now that is different, but the idea of that came from an unknown place. There was an interesting talk that I saw where someone was talking about where ideas really come from. And a lot of your ideas about the things that you want to create are already in you. They're kind of half ideas. Then there'll be something in your outer reality that is kind of a match that bumps up. It's the other half of the idea, and it kind of bumps up. And if it hits at the wrong time, you go, oh, I wish I had known that. Oh, I'm not in a position to take advantage of that now. But that makes sense. That would be such a good idea. Right? You ever have that one? But then you go, wow, eureka, this is the answer I was looking for. Well, how does that happen? We can't really quite see that. And how were you able to track that and notice that? Well, that has to do a lot with your reticular activating system. We are mostly visual in the way that we're experiencing our reality. Of course, we have five senses, and there are those who are without sight, and their brain is set up a little differently. But what sets our brain apart is the way that we process information visually. And with the reticular activating system, it operates on particular parameters. It looks for what is similar. Now, there are some people that they're set up to look for everything that is different. And if you'll notice, they're always contrasting and separating. And so, and that gets reflected in their speech sometimes. They seem like they're negative or contrary, but they're always on the search. Well, in their reality, they must look for the contrast. That is their program. That's how their particular bend of light goes. But for the most part, we are always looking for that which is the inner match to our inner reality. So let's say that, well, we've seen this with our friends. I'm sure this hadn't happened to us, but you've seen where you've had the girlfriend or the gal pal that she always seems to pick the wrong guy over and over. What's wrong with her picker? You would think that she'd want to go get the best guy possible that treats her with respect and wants to romance her and dine her and show her a good time, and somebody that she can just give her best to. What is it in her that would draw her to someone that's not good to her? Well, he is a match for her inner reality of not being worthy of love. And everything that he does supports that belief. We're going to reject everything that does not match our inner belief system. But we can't always know what it is. We can only know the clues and the results of our beliefs and our programs. But this creating from the unknown, it's the idea, and Asar and I talked a lot about this. I said, does this idea come from outside of you, or is it something that's born inside of you? And the answer is yes. But what causes the activation is when someone is witnessed. That often the difference that happens with the child, and I hope I'm making sense here, that there seems to be a third element of something in our environment, but it's usually relational. There's some person that says, you can do this, that this pain that you're experiencing is not what's normal, that you're greater than this. There's some messenger along the way. And sometimes there's just someone that was even in passing. Sometimes there's a significant person, but we all have that person. But who they're speaking to is not you that's the weak and the broken. That person that inspired you, the reason they inspired you is because they spoke to your greatness that's inside of you. They saw the truth of your potential and your goodness. And that half idea that you had that, no, this doesn't have to be this way, that I know I'm good, I know I can have something good in my life. When they speak to that, that's that other half of that idea, and that creates a spark. And there's this moment that you accept it. Right now, I just want you to pause for a second and think about how many positive statements have you rejected? How many words of encouragement? How many great ideas? When people want to be helpful or supportive or say, hey, you can do this. Hey, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're handsome. You can do this. And you go, no, yeah, but I know, but it's still like you can't accept it. How many opportunities have you walked by? How many have you turned down because of this inner sense of not deserving or being worthy or able, or that it's not yet or not you or not now? And this isn't making you wrong, because I want to remind you that everything you've done up until now has been done to the very best of your ability. You know, you were trained into denying your own good. Maybe first your parents denied you. Maybe there was really tough circumstances that, hey, it just wasn't an option, no matter what you needed. Now, if you got to hear my story, you know, my parents owned a grocery store. They bought the grocery store because they wanted to create something for our family. They wanted to be able to add to the wealth. They wanted to get out of the 9 to 5 job, which turned, you know, 9 to 5 would have been a vacation, because we went from working 9 to 5 jobs, and they went into first working after they got off of work, working part-time in the business to build equity. But then the store hours were 7 in the morning till 11 at night, and usually we were there. Even as a kid, I was there all the time, and everything was about that store. And suddenly this business that was supposed to support our family, wanted to be in our family, had to give everything up to support this business. And so the program became, I can't. Can you come spend the night at our house? Can you join the Girl Scouts? Can you go to the bonfire? Can you go to the dance? No, no, no. Usually no. Then, as I shared in my personal story, being a bedwetter and the things that often girls get to do. You know, I was uncomfortable because I didn't feel clean, and I was always kind of pulled back. I was a great big sensitive crybaby kid, just uncomfortable in her skin. But then I had this thing that was wrong with me, and then if, you know, I just couldn't go spend the night at their house, or, you know, just do all, just more than that. But there just was too many I can't, I'm not comfortable. And that just, all of that just set me up for just a lifetime of being isolated and feeling separate. I felt damaged. But there was still something inside of me that told me that I could be something, because I kept dreaming about something greater. I wanted to perform. I wanted to be up and out with people. I loved, you know, seeing the things about rich people. I loved business. I loved all those things. That came up from inside of me. And we're going to tap into that unknown part of you. And we're going to talk a little more about that later. What you have in your life right now is a direct reflection of what you brought into matter by your own thinking. Now, even if things have happened outside of what seemed to happen outside of your control, there's still a vibrational match. There's something about the particular circumstances, the time and place. And, you know, I love what Rich said. He's one of our participants, and I'm going to see if I can pull up his email, because it was just so great what he said, because we were having all of the glitches. And he said, regarding the technical difficulties, it's amusing to see counter intentions manifesting. Very powerful subconscious counter intentions blocking the seminar, and I think you handled it nicely. Well, thank you, because we were having some difficulties there. Well, up until now, so I didn't know that I wanted that to happen. I didn't know that there was some part of me that wasn't quite ready. I thought I was ready. I'd been practicing for days. I'd been preparing for days. But I realized that there was a different message that I really wanted to give you. I realized I was actually trying to put a different kind of seminar that wasn't quite the match for what you were wanting. And part of the promise of the seminar is that we tune into the intelligence of the group. We're connecting in to this group consciousness, and then we're bringing in the teaching in a way that is a match for you. And Asara has done that, and people have taken a lot of our seminars, and we have the same format. We get everybody to the same place, but the information in each seminar is always just a little different. And we'll probably never be one of those kind of teachers that, you know, we could just roll out our memorized text, because we're tuning into you, we're getting our internal feedback. So even if it's something that you don't like, it is a direct reflection of, what you brought into matter by your own thinking. I just have to share a little story. A few years ago, Asara and I had, Asara Lovejoy, who's the author of The One Command and the developer of this program, she and I wrote this program together. And we had actually come off of the road after being in, I think something like 6 weeks of teaching seminars. We were on this high. We just, were just ready to come home and relax. And Asara had hired someone to be a house sitter and take care of the dogs, and he took care of the property and everything. And she'd known him for a lot of years. And coming back home from being on the road, found out that he had totaled her car that she had just paid off. We'd had such a successful trip. She went ahead and paid off the full amount on the car and was really looking forward to not having any new car payments. He totaled the car because he was borrowing it, and there's these little windy country roads, and there was a bottle on the seat. When he made a turn, the bottle rolled off the seat into the floorboard, and he went to grab it, and when he grabbed it, he accidentally went off into a ditch. And I asked him, I wanted to be mad. I wanted to be really upset with him. It's like, why are you driving the car when you have your own car? And he said, well, no one told me I couldn't drive it. And I was like, well, that's the wrong answer. But Asara, I was like, wow, I didn't know I was ready for a new car. I said, what? She said, I didn't know I was ready for a new car. She said, I've actually been kind of unhappy with this. I was going to make do, but I really didn't like the car. But I didn't know I was ready for that. And so it just so happened that some friends of ours were going out of town, and we really weren't quite ready to spend money yet because we were still in the stage where we had made the decision to do our business strictly on cash basis, and we were really working on getting the business out of debt and getting, everything set up. And we had our budget, and a new car was not in the budget. And, she just didn't want to spend the money then. So some friends actually had a car that they were going out of the country for 3 months, and they had asked if they could park it at the property. Asara got permission to use that car, and then when it came time for us to get a car, it was because I had been her roommate for a while, and I was getting ready to move out because I had given my car to my daughter, and we just were, roommating and using the car. We just were kind of socked in. It was very rare that we used the car. That's just the way it was. So when I said, well, I've got to have my own car because I'm moving out now, I'm moving back to Texas, we said, well, we did the one command for we don't know how we have a new car. And I think it was 10 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh, I need to check into this website about a car. And it turned out they had a fabulous deal. By the end of the week, I had not one car, but 2 cars. I had the right car for me and the right car for Asara. That was much less than what we were looking for everywhere else. And it was just sitting there, and people said, how did you find out about it? And I said, my intuition just spoke back to me. And I took action on it. So the way that we are having our reality is processed through all of our senses, but then it's like a feedback mechanism. Okay, so I want to just kind of come back to something here. I'm going to do a little demonstration with you. Right now, there's a way that you're having an experience in the world that you are, you're walking around, you're observing it. Then there's the story and the way that you're observing your past. There's your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas about the past. There's your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas about what's happening now. There's your thoughts, your feelings, your idea about what's happening in the future. If it is moving you forward with excitement and anticipation, then you are projecting from an experience in the past or something that's happened, some signs and signals you're getting in your ordinary reality now, which we're calling ordinary, what you can see with your eyes and hear with your ears, feel and touch. you're getting something in your environment that is kind of giving you the clue that, hey, you could take action. Then when you imagine it, you get a positive outcome, and then you start taking action. Isn't that cool? Very simple, right? When it's negative, you'll get the signal, hey, there's an opportunity here to do something, but I'm not sure if it's right. Your unconscious mind is doing the search back to the past and going, what do I know about it? And then if there's pain associated with it, then what it does, this thing that you want to create, if it looks even similar, let's see that it's like changing jobs, going to a higher paying job. And you go, well, gosh, it sounds really good, but I don't know, I'm really afraid. I'm not sure I should do that. Well, what your mind is doing is going on a search about what do we know about going to higher paying or going to new opportunities. Then it's doing the search back to the past, and it's somehow connecting into the past unresolved pain, and then it projects that pain into the future. And this is really the only difference between the two. One is when we're looking at our memories, we are getting positive memories and associations from the past. We project them into the future and we move forward because it's a match. Okay? Yeah, I think we should have called this the one match, but we're going to learn what that one command is. Okay, so I want to really talk to you about, let you have a little demonstration about how this works, how our emotions and our mind creates reality. And what I want you to do is I'm going to hypnotize your two index fingers. I'm going to switch this back over to the screen for a second. Hello, I'm back. And let's see. This is my right, so this looks opposite for you, I believe. Okay, but what we're going to do is your right is going to be positive, 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 positive. And right now, through the power of the internet, I'm going to hypnotize your fingers. Hang on. All right, so we've got those, and I want you to go ahead and identify your right finger, identify your left finger, okay, and pull it back away from your wherever it is you're sitting right now, because I want you to be able to have access to your knee to where you could just raise it kind of up and down. I can't quite get the monitor there, but let's just say it's coming up and down straight this way. All right? I want you to think about a time in the past that you felt stuck. Negative finger, left finger. Think of a time in the past you felt stuck. And I want you to take that left finger and press it down on your left knee. And I want you to think about everything that you have to think about, tell yourself or remember about being stuck. Okay? Go ahead and get stuck as you need to get stuck. This is probably, I feel tension like coming up out of my gut right now. Okay? They're probably pretty familiar. Now you can go ahead and raise your finger. Now with your left finger, your right finger, pardon me, I want you to think of a time that you felt free or that you were in the flow. Free flow. Okay, great. Now just think of free and flow. Maybe you were swimming, maybe you were a kid playing in the water, but it was just easy. Think of the time you could feel yourself flowing, and when you get that, press down on your right knee. And just whatever it is you have to think about, tell yourself or remember to go into that experience of flowing. Okay? Great. All right. So now, just close your eyes and back for a minute. Okay, bring your fingers back up. Isn't that nice? Now let's test the being stuck with your left finger pressing down on your knee. Get stuck. And up. Let's go back into flow. And this is called an anchor, a kinesthetic anchor. Okay, so now here's what I want you to do. I want you to press your right finger on your right knee, and now press your left finger on your left knee. Close your eyes. Now lift your left finger. Okay. Now, did you feel like a little movement, like a little brain? Yeah. So I'm going to explain that in a second. Now I want you to go back and press on your left knee. Think about that stuck feeling. Can you find that? Probably might not have as much steam or energy. Okay. Now go into this flow feeling. Wow. What happened there? Well, this is called a collapsing anchor. And in your brain, you cannot hold these two emotions at the same time. And the brain is going to choose the one that has the most resources, the one with flow. And what it does is it will immediately switch all of its energy over to there. It's kind of like a big power grid. Then what happens is it causes that other negative feeling to collapse. But I want you to think about that stuck feeling for a minute. That was probably a pretty familiar feeling. And that's the feeling that you are probably spending a lot of your energy trying to avoid. And so your state of being and all of your choices are not based on trying to move forward to the thing that brings you the most joy, happiness, and fulfillment. Most of us spend our time trying to avoid pain, lack, and suffering. Now, this has to do with us being small children and our survival, that being loved meant having our physical needs met, and that we would do anything possible in order to get love from our parents. Now, that's an oversimplified statement because there's some beliefs that have come in and some programming that was actually formed in utero, and there's programs that are carried down through the generations. There's some that are shaped by your environment. There's been injury. There's been trauma. Nutrition makes a difference. And all of our conditioning. But in spite of all of that had happened, that happens, that greater capacity, that greatness that you really are is still there and cannot be denied. That light that you are, no matter what you've done in the past to try to hide it, there is nothing that can hide the greatness that is you. And what if it's just as true that all of these thoughts and these images and these emotions and all of this is cluttering up and hiding our truth and our greatness? Who would you be without your body? Who would you be without those nagging thoughts about everything that you're doing wrong? Who would you be without the worry of bills or the worry of loss or having to figure out every day how to get over the hump or how to make sure you have enough? Who would you be? And what would you do? What kind of thoughts would you think if you were free? We're going to be exploring more of that. Part of what's in the membership for you is a meditation that's called the Space All Around. I want to encourage you to take some time to listen to that. And yes, that is my little attempt at special effects, but it's an incredible experience of being able to go in and start experiencing yourself as an observer. Now, we have a break coming up right now, and I'm going to play a little YouTube video just for the sake of the conference here because this is a pre-recorded one. But just take a little break. What I want you to do is get a cup of coffee or drink some water, move around a little bit, and then we're going to come right back.